Welcome, everyone, to this week's Really Big Fan Podcast. I'm your host, ChZuck. I'm joined by my co-host, ACRONYM.
Hello.
And we are here to tell you everything that's going on in the worlds of, like, gaming and wrestling and music and entertainment. We're just entertainment junkies.
Yeah,
We
pretty
just
much.
like watching movies and listening to music and playing video games, and we like telling you guys all about it. Today we've got a really great guest. Our first guest, is it not? No, our second guest.
Second guest.
Our second guest. Mike was our first guest last week. Thank you again, Mike, from Two Guys, One Lightsaber, for talking Star Wars with us on the eve of the last Mandalorian. I think we both enjoyed the final Mandalorian episode very much.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but the guy named Rick, his last name starts with an F. Dude is a genius.
Filoni?
No, that's Dave Filoni.
Sorry.
No, it's like Rick Fayamuja or something. Like, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay.
But he did some of my favorite episodes this season.
Oh,
so
okay. Excellent.
Like, every time we got done and I went, it was Rick.
Yep.
Like, that was why. It was like his episodes were my favorite ones for the most part. Like,
Right.
him and every time Carl Weathers gets to direct, I'm always really jazzed about his episodes.
Yeah.
Deborah Cho and Bryce Dallas Howard usually do great episodes.
I usually
as
like
well.
her episodes a lot.
Yeah, those guys are all awesome, and I like how they have like a team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's always usually the same crew of people doing the directing,
Right.
but they're all just, they understand the product.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a kind of a strange season. I think we talked with Mike about that last week, whereas like most of the other seasons were very westerny. They're very like one-shot stories that all link together with this one plot, whereas this one was kind of like one big overarching plot with the Mandalorians as a race instead of just Mando himself.
And they're going to I think they're going to kind of expand on that moving forward, but Katie Sackhoff has been doing a lot of interviews lately, who plays Bo-Katan. She's been talking about how, like, all of these things are converging together, because you've got Ahsoka, you've got the Mandalorian series, and Book of Boba Fett, and all of those are supposed to go together. Now, simultaneously, there's been some frustration with the fact that Boba Fett was supposed to pop up in the last season of The Mandalorian, and there's been some, I think, probably misconstrued quotes that they've taken from Tamura, how do I pronounce his name?
No idea.
The dude that plays Boba Fett and Jango Fett, he made mention that, like, he was supposed to be in the season and they cut it, and he seemed sort of like frustrated with it, and people kind of blew it out of proportion afterward. But I think it was more of like, he took up a decent chunk of the Boba Fett series. Like,
right.
One whole episode was dedicated to him and then was like part of this. So in that sense, I think we're going to see some crossover in between the two.
I wonder if with Dave Filoni now he's gonna do like the movies and stuff, if like one of his movies is just gonna be the Avengers of Star Wars.
It should.
We're gonna take everybody's that's had a show on Disney Plus for the last like 5 years and make one big team, like one big story to make them all interact.
And not to share too much, because I know there's probably still people trying to catch up yet, so
right.
I'm gonna not share like spoilers or anything like that. But I will say that I think that the reason that they're bringing back Rey and they're going to do more is Grogu is the first student that Luke ever taught.
Sure.
Rey is the last student Luke ever taught. So these two have the opportunity to, like, re-raise, the
Jedi.
the good side. Yeah, and the Jedi and everything. And I feel like that is something that they're maybe possibly looking at.
Interesting.
And I don't know if maybe at some point Rey and Grogu will meet or, whatever.
Hopefully he's all grown up by then.
Yeah, I mean, the plus side is like, I will say there's like, this is like the only spoiler I will give you, is that like probably in the last like 2 minutes of the episode, you see Grogu walking.
Yeah.
And he's taller, because you can actually see his feet underneath his little robe. And you've not actually seen him walk,
right.
and see his feet moving before. And that was like, it tripped me out. And
yeah.
It was like really quick and very like minuscule. But I was like, oh man, he's getting bigger. He's getting bigger. He's actually, you can see his feet now. That's dope.
What if that race is just the goblins of of the Star Wars universe, and Grogu has been able to talk this entire time, but he's messing with people like Yoda used to mess with people, and just making little baby sounds.
I feel like Grogu would have cracked by now. He loves Mando too much.
All right, well, now that we've kind of reviewed what we've been up to in the last week, let's hit the headlines.
Yes.
I'm making it a thing to bring my laptop in here so I can tell you all about the headlines.
Well, while you're pulling that up, I will do one little music one real quick.
All right.
Apparently, the guys in Crazytown got in a fight.
I haven't seen the video, but I saw last night on Twitter that there's two guys, right, in Crazytown.
So they have a band, like there's an actual band,
right?
But from what I understand, the lead singer did not show up on time, so the other guy was trying to sing, kind of like how you would sometimes do that with your band.
Sure.
And unfortunately, once the other guy showed up, he got really mad, and they got in a fist fight. Apparently,
on stage.
And it was like a little bit after that because they were on some sort of like riverfront concert series with a bunch of like you see older people there or whatever. And
you better be careful. You're only like 5 years away from your favorite bands being on Riverfront concert series.
My favorite band's already playing in the grocery store. Let's be honest here. Like I'm hearing Weezer at Meijer, and I'm not okay with it. But after apparently they got in this fight, they squashed the beef. So they're just like, oh, it's all good now. So there was this public spectacle, and they ended up in the press and everything. They're like, no, we're fine now.
They tried to be kayfabe Oasis.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But
that's insane.
Regardless, I think my favorite was from Jesse Ali on TikTok. He's from Ohio. He's really cool. He's now working for SiriusXM. He said, the biggest thing that I'm confused about is Crazytown is still playing dates?
Yeah, well.
So I love that about it.
Okay, we found out last week that the Spider-Man movies are coming to Disney+. Plus.
Woo-woo!
All of the Sony Spider-Man stuff. They officially put the Sam Raimi trilogy on there, as well as the Amazing Spider-Man collection with Andrew Garfield, and the first Spider-Man Tom Holland movie is coming on May 12th, along with Venom.
Yes.
Which still leaves the other two Tom Holland Spider-Mans and the Venom sequel.
Yep.
And Morbius.
Does anybody... I feel like people only watch Morbius, ironically.
You need to watch it once, but only once.
Only once.
I mean, you can watch it again if you want to, but you don't have to.
I never need to see Matt Smith dance with his shirt off ever again.
I don't know. I was pretty all right with it.
It was creepy.
So, yeah, that's something to look forward to. Also, we've got a Kraven the Hunter movie coming up, which is going to have the guy who played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron as Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yes. Also, Kick-Ass.
Nice.
Back in the day. On the comic book front, this is the week that comic book stores get their previews magazine, which lets you know what's coming out in July. And Dark Horse and IDW Publishing is teaming up for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Stranger Things crossover in July.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yes, they said it's supposed to explore the similarities between Raphael and Eleven. They both have some rage issues, but it'll also be interesting to see how some of the other turtles, like Max and Donatello, get along and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's something to look forward to in July. Not the only comic book related news we've got with this week's episode, so definitely stay tuned for that. Also, I saw this yesterday. A YouTuber that unpackages Magic the Gathering cards essentially got his house swatted last Saturday by Pinkerton agents, which is a private detective company that Wizards of the Coast had hired, because he got a case of Magic the Gathering cards that don't come out until May. And they wanted him to give back the stolen property. According to this YouTuber, whose name is in the article, and I do not remember it, Dan Old School MTG Cannon, he had said on his social media that he was going to be shooting videos on Saturday morning with this new March of the Machine aftermath stuff when the raid on his house happened. Um, he said that the guy that he buys his Magic the Gathering cards is more of a Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh guy. So when he got the cards that aren't supposed to release until May, he couldn't tell the difference between March of the Machine Aftermath and the March of the Machine set that just released last Friday, and gave him the wrong box.
Gotcha.
So it's not like he was, going through nefarious means, at least according to him, to get cards that he's not supposed to have yet, but is still kind of a black eye on Wizards of the Coast part to just send private detectives to raid your house because they think you stole something you weren't supposed to have.
Everything you just said went
right over your head.
I don't know a single thing, with the exception of I got really confused when everybody was posting about Pinkertons.
Sure.
Because I'm going, what did Weezer do?
Everyone's just celebrating their love for...
No, everybody was mad about Pinkertons, and I'm like, what the fuck is a Pinkerton? This has nothing to do with Weezer. I'm really confused.
It does not. So actually, a lot of us know Pinkerton, even says so in this Kotaku article, because of Red Dead Redemption.
Yep.
Because
I saw people posting about Red Dead.
Yeah, because there's a whole line of missions in the first Red Dead Redemption where the Pinkerton Detective Agency is like employed by the U.S. government to do stuff with the gang that you were previously a part of to hunt them down.
I could not tell if that was what was being said was political, if it had something to do with gaming or what. And I was like, Pinkerton, Red Dead Redemption 2, something about WOTC, which I don't know what that stands for. That's got to be code for something. I was really confused, and I didn't want to ask anybody.
That is Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that makes Magic the Gathering cards, who got bought by Hasbro years ago. So now Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast.
When I started doing podcasting with Chuck, even just talking to Chuck in general, I sent him a graphic, okay? And the graphic had a hot bar and a cold bar and went like all into a scale. Then I put little lines that went into like what I knew and what I didn't know about nerdisms. And like on the cold side would be things I knew nothing about, and then on the other side it was things that I knew about in between some of the other stuff that didn't make sense. And that is very much on the cold bar side. I know nothing about like Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons. Like I think I know more about Dungeons and Dragons from Stranger Things than anything else.
I'm sure, because I'm not a big D&D player myself.
But it's just like I don't know any of that, so I was like sitting there going, I have no idea what's happening, and King Mob was tweeting about it, and Possum Punks were tweeting about it. And
right.
Like, I don't know what's going on, and I don't want to ask anybody.
Part of it is that Wizards of the Coast owns Dungeons and Dragons as well.
Oh, okay.
And they just had that big kerfuffle a month or two ago where they said they were going to cancel the open gaming license, and everybody that was making stuff like Possum Punks on Twitter was like, all right, then we'll just make it for a different game kind of thing. And then they had to back off on it. So this is like the second bad Wizards of the Coast thing in a couple of months.
Get a new team, guys. Get a new team.
Yeah. All right, well, here's a couple of video games we can look forward to. There is a game coming out called Funko Fusion. It is essentially the Lego games done with Funko Pops.
Oh, jeez.
The trailer came out and shows characters from the Umbrella Academy interacting with Jurassic World, Back to the Future, Masters of the Universe, Shaun of the Dead, and John Carpenter's The Thing.
Wow.
There's going to be different worlds, just like a Lego game where you interact with different things from the franchises as different Funko Pops. And it's made by a company who is people who used to work for Telltale Games, who made all the Lego games.
Gotcha.
So that's something to look forward to. It's supposed to come out early next year. And the other thing to look forward to that they just started doing the paid beta testing for is Disney Speedstorm. It's Disney Mario Kart.
Yes.
And it's supposed to be free to play. The only thing that in the Kotaku article that I was reading that is a minus so far is that the grind to get certain characters is extremely, like, you're going to have to play so many races to get the points you need to not spend money to get the cars you got. And there's only, they said, 9 tracks right now. But I would imagine this is the beginning. It's kind of like that, what was that Warner Brothers fighting game? Multiverses, where it's like, here's 8 characters to start, but don't worry, we're going to add more. And this is Disney seeing if they can cash in on that kind of free-to-play video game style.
Absolutely.
And that's all I've got for some headlines. So I guess we'll get right into our interview.
Yep.
This week we're talking to Mark Cooper, Player One of Nerdcore fame, about his love of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And that's coming up next on the Really Big Fan Podcast. All right, y'all, it's the interview segment of this week's Really Big Fan Podcast, and I'm super excited because we are talking to close friend of both mine and Acronyms, Mr. Mark Cooper. He's a nerdcore rapper, and he's also a really big fan of Power Rangers. Mark, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing all right, man. Like I said, I'm really excited to talk to you specifically about Power Rangers because this is one of the first episodes, or at least first interviews that we're doing, where both me and Acronym aren't really huge fans of the subject. So like you kind of get to school us in the things that we don't know about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Let's get started. For our first question, where did you first discover Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Well, to be honest, I discovered it just like any other, 6 or 7-year-old in '93 when it came out on TV.
Okay.
Doing all the backflips and jumps off the slide when you're not supposed to, and claiming you're somebody and nobody else could be that color because that's just where you were as a kid. And this is kind of how you got inspired by it. I've been watching it since then, and it's just been like a roller coaster ride of things I always loved about it.
So when you were a kid, was there a specific color Power Ranger that when you were on the playground, you were always like, I'm that one?
Oh, absolutely. I was always the Green Ranger. I was always Tommy, and
yeah,
that's just kind of what it is. He had a shield, and everybody else didn't, and that's fine. That's it's kind of how you
figured it was either the
it.
green one or the white one because it was the same dude, and he was the big badass.
Exactly, and that's why I love the most about it. So,
Pink Ranger up in the house.
Okay.
That was me when I was younger. I did dress up as the Pink Ranger for Halloween one year.
Nice.
But that was the extent of it.
Nice. Funny to hear you guys talk about being like 7 or 8 years old when Power Rangers came out. I think I was in high school at the time. I remember the show coming out and I remember seeing it and being like, oh, this is kind of fun. But it didn't grab me in the way that things grabbed me when I was younger. Because like I said, I was in high school. So I was just kind of tangentially aware of what's going on in Saturday morning cartoons.
Well, it's interesting too that you kind of didn't get into it because of the fact that when they have their vehicles and then they form into the giant thing, that's very Transformers.
Very Voltron, very Transformers.
Yeah.
I did go and see the movie.
Oh, nice.
Even though I think by that time we had graduated high school. I remember going with friends to see the movie because we had to see what the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie was going to be all about. So I always ask everybody this question because I find it fascinating. Was Power Rangers was the TV show your first entry to it, or did you have toys before the TV show, or maybe play one of the video games?
No, it was definitely the show first for sure.
Yeah,
because I didn't know a lot about the Sentai series and things like that were in the early '80s or even the '70s even.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I graduated, not graduated, when I was born in like the later '80s, like '87. Like a lot of the stuff, like that was like one of my first actual like introductions into live hero type of things. Like I've seen, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I've seen all of those, elements of it. But it was the first time seeing something continuously on a Saturday afternoon or a weekday afternoon.
Right. You're right. It was very unique in that it was live action, where a lot of the stuff that we watched at the time would be animated. Has it led you to seek out other stuff like Ultraman?
Yeah, I love Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. They used to come on actually right before Power Rangers in the morning. And that was one of the first shows I remember growing up with, where they would show it at 7:00 and then they would show it at 4:00 right afterwards.
Oh, nice.
So you'll get like a double episode. So you'll be already amped to go to school because you just saw that. You want to, go on the playground and reenact things you shouldn't reenact. And then you get back home and you get your snacks or your Pop-Tarts and your chips or whatever. And then you watch the episode that comes on at 4:00.
So did the Power Rangers show give you the impetus to maybe practice martial arts or learn to build a giant mech that turns into an even bigger mech?
There was a point where I was in martial arts for a little bit when I was about 8 or 9 and trying it out and things like that. But I had a bigger passion in basketball at that time.
Ah,
So it's something that I did like on Saturdays and all that. But mostly I just kind of got right into basketball. And I just really enjoy that. And then what's really cool, I like the most about it is that we already knew controversy was coming because that was the time when there were a whole bunch of things being introduced into violence, like as in from the Mortal Kombat era
right.
situations and the ESRB and, just seeing like, what are our kids watching era kind of thing. And, because Power Rangers was a violent show, even though it wasn't meant like that whatsoever at all, the kids were still going to do what they did. But what I like the most is that they went the PSA route about it and said,
Mhm.
hey, I know you guys see us do this stuff on TV, but just understand that this stuff isn't real. And I like the fact that they owned up to that. Even as a kid, I was just like, yeah, that was kind of dangerous. I jumped on that slide. You know what I mean? You
Right.
get those recollections like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have did that. And then you get it. But it always makes it fun. And that's what I love most about the show. It always kept it fun.
The 90s were the force to be reckoned with between Power Rangers and WWF.
It's true. It's very true. It's funny because I remember when Ninja Turtles was a thing, like playing in the backyard with sticks and plastic katana blades and stuff and playing Ninja Turtles. And I don't think it was until Power Rangers that it became a problem, which
Yeah.
it should have totally been a problem when we were doing it, like 5 to 7 years before.
Mhm.
I think it's probably because it was live action.
Yeah, because if it's a cartoon, it's like it's a little different. It's like, well, that and they're turtles, they're not
Right.
people, but like having that element of like, well, that person looks like me. You have that identifier, but at the same time, then it's like, no, I want to go fight people.
It's also funny too that like the Ninja Turtles would eventually get a live action Power Rangers style
We don't
show.
want to talk
Yeah,
about
that
that.
was a conversation I was having with somebody else. They were saying that Ninja Turtles made that introduction to show that a live action could really be something, because that was 1990 91, and then they started coming out with Rangers in 93 in America's aspect of it.
I was going to say that's wild because I seem to recall the Turtles show coming out after Power Rangers had made it huge. But I defer to you. You probably have a better grasp on the timeline than I do.
No. Shockingly enough, I thought Ninja Turtles was around like maybe right after Power Rangers. I always thought that, but then
Yeah.
when I looked at the tapes again, I was like, the first movie was 1990.
Right. No, I'm thinking of like the next mutation show, the live action show. Like I think Power Rangers hit, and then they're like, well, we've got some turtle costumes we can put people in. And that's the other thing that's fascinating too, is that the so the battle sequences and like the sequences with the Zords, as they're called, are all from a show that's almost like 10 years earlier.
Oh yeah.
The New Mutation didn't come out until 1997.
Okay, so yeah, it was a matter of like, man, look at all that Power Rangers money. We want a cut of that.
Oh yeah, especially where the way the toys came out.
Yeah.
That was
Oh
just
yeah,
that
for
was a
sure.
whole element in itself. That was super cool.
Well, it's
Right.
like everybody wanted to be a Power Ranger for Halloween. Like if you were a millennial during that time frame, like that was the costume.
And those costumes were really good for it too, because you just need the mask and then the jumpsuit.
Yep.
So you just had a different color jumpsuit. Did you when you were growing up, Mark, did you ever like make up your own Power Ranger that wasn't a color that they had yet?
No, I didn't do that.
No.
I was kind of obsessed with the green and the white Ranger with it. It was just Tommy everything at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Okay. So
It's
what do
just
you
that
think
he's just the coolest ever to me,
what was it about Power Rangers like that really like you're like, this is my thing, like this is that it went from being like, oh, Power Rangers kind of cool to like, no man, I'm a Power Rangers fan, this is a thing I really like.
I think it was just the element of being able to grasp an imagination situation from it. And the thing is, the reason why it's super important, and sometimes you think of it even from like a psychological aspect, is that growing up I was the only child. So I
Okay.
didn't have siblings and things like that until like years later, like when I got into my 20s. But like it's just understanding, like, you in the 90s, it was really always about your imagination and what exactly you could be able to create with that. Because, by playing the Game Boy or the Genesis, or, going outside to the park is one thing. But when you start making up your own imagination stuff, go, oh, there's putties there, or there's this, there's that. And you start becoming more creative, different ways to entertain yourself, to the point that you're like, wow, that was a great episode. Wow, that was super cool. It was like being able to feel like you're a hero to somebody, even though you don't do anything at all to benefit society at all. Just imagining that you are that person. It's just like anybody who was an X-Men fan or a DC fan, so they can be able to, embody that character. And then later on, you see that, there were teenagers like, okay, then you go to Turbo, then they have one that's a kid that was like, 9 or 10 years old doing it. And you're like, wow, a kid could be a ranger too. It just gave you more elements to be able to build with. But it might just be a creative thing for me.
Right. And speaking of a creative thing, this is also something that you're even to this day doing stuff, Power Rangers stuff. Tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about what you're up to.
Sure, man. I'm actually a green Power Ranger. I don't know how that happened, but I am. And I'll be a green elephant ranger from a series that's called from Zoolager. So it's basically Beast Hunters. It's like a morph with the Rubik's Cube, which is kind of hilarious. So when I show you the morpher in person, you're going to laugh about it for sure. I've been training for that, and I've been getting my health together and things like that too, for an inspiration to be able to, do that kind of action. So it's pretty great to have that. I've been doing a lot of stunt double work. So just like how they had villains and putties and things like that, I actually get dressed as that to be a fight choreographer as well. So nice. I coordinate with other Ranger series and things like that. That's cool. And it's all the way down to the music, make music about it and create it. So it's been an overall passion of mine that I really, embodied the best way I can.
So we first met when I was doing my previous show, and it was because you're also a what's called a nerdcore rapper, which you've done whole albums about the Power Rangers when you're doing your rapping. How has your nerdcore rap career helped you when it comes to like scoring this stuff?
Oh, well, to be honest, a lot of it is, inspiration from watching. So one of my heroes in that is called Ron Wasserman. If you ever met him before or heard of him, he's the guy that's done like the X-Men animated series. He's done the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger theme and all those things. And what I like about his music is that, like, him and Bruce Falconer from Dragon Ball Z, and the people that are behind that, I like how they convey emotion in anything that they put together for it. And that's something that definitely inspires me when it comes to doing that kind of music. So when I rap about the music I want to do, whether if it's Power Rangers, whether if it's Dragon Ball Z, et cetera, it's something I grew up with, and it's something I'm passionate about. And people can sense that in music. Nowadays, a lot of people kind of, make the music they think everybody wants to hear, or, whether it's, like the regular popular trend, or it might be a pity party. I'm sad about some things. Let's be sad together. What I mean? Which is absolutely fine. But I just didn't want to do that particular aspect of it. I just want to do it for the people who grew up with the stuff in the 90s, and then maybe grew up within the 80s and the 70s, and they're showing their kids, hey, this is what I like to do. And that's what inspires me.
Hell yeah. No, I love that. And I've listened to your stuff, obviously. And out of all of the stuff that you've put out, is there a verse that you wrote that was Power Ranger specific that is your favorite?
Yeah. It'd definitely be, of course, if I do the Tommy Oliver stuff, of course, that's just, I really enjoy those kind of things. But to be honest, one of my favorite verses I ever wrote was for the Black Ranger from Mastodon, just because of the story behind it, which is interesting. I met Walter Jones at a Michigan Comic-Con when they had it back in 2019. And because, he's from Detroit. So his family was here. So his parents were here. So I was in line. And I was just waiting, I was talking, I was getting ready to come out with some, Power Ranger stuff, just thinking in my head. And then his parents are like, okay, let's hear what you got.
And I'm right on the spot there.
I was like, what? And that was the first time I ever been, just kind of stumped. I was like, well, it's something I'm working on. So, great. Well, let us know when you do. So when I got home, I wrote that whole project in a week.
Nice.
That's cool. That's cool.
So,
And did you ever hear back from them? You ever like send them, some tracks and hear back from them?
oh yeah. It even got to the point even Walter Jones has used the song in his videos before.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So a
That's
lot of the
super cool.
Rangers really take a good liking to it. Because you always get those people that wait until like maybe like an anniversary show or something like that. And be like, oh, I'm gonna make a Power Ranger rap, and everybody's gonna go, ooh,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And you know that they're not really fans like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're doing it when it's like only the like 22nd anniversary, then it's much better than when it's, which now I guess it's the 30th anniversary. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. They're going to be doing one on Netflix, right?
It came out today.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yep.
I was like, I knew that they said that the original Pink Power Ranger did not sign up or sign in for that, but the rest of them did, and they were all really excited, including her. She was very supportive of everybody else. So I knew that something was coming out, but I just didn't know when. So what is it called?
It should be I think it's called Once and Always.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a film. It's interesting because the one of the Rangers that passed on before Jason David Frank was for Trini.
Right.
And she passed, and then I think they casted somebody that's like as her daughter.
That's what I had read.
Which is interesting. I don't know if it's actually Michelle Kwan's actual biological daughter, but
right.
If it is, that's even crazier.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
For sure. Yeah. So Power Rangers has had a ton of stuff. It's got the TV show, as we mentioned. It had the toys. There were video games based on it. The comic books are doing gangbusters these days. I think they've got like 3 or 4 different monthly titles.
Wow.
For Power Rangers, which is pretty cool. For you, did you ever branch out into the other media that Power Rangers had?
Yes. I mean, I've always loved the video games of it. I do play the new one that they have. That's like a 2D based game. They do have. I think it's Battle of the Grid. I hope I didn't get it wrong, but that's the name. It's like Power of the Grid or Battle of the Grid, okay. And it goes based off of the comic book of of the Lord Draken and that particular history. And they have some of the voice actors in it. I know they have Jason David Frank, but I believe they have Amy Jo in there as well.
That's nice. Super cool. I'm surprised that in this day and age with like the online games being so big, like Dead by Daylight or something like that there's not some Power Rangers game where it's like 5 against an army or 5 against 1.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Oh, like an RPG. Yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked there's no RPG or RTS for that yet.
Yeah, for sure, because it's the kind of thing where like when I found out that over in Japan they made a Sailor Moon RPG and it plays a little bit like Chrono Trigger, I was like, what? This is amazing. Right.
Is it the one you have on the emulator?
It is.
Okay, yeah.
And it's pretty cool. Well, Mark, it's been great talking to you about Power Rangers and your passion for it. Going into the future, what are you excited about that they're doing right now with Power Rangers? Like, we just talked about the Netflix show. Do they have maybe another movie on the way, or do they have, they have to still have shows, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They I believe they have a new one they just introduced. I'm trying to losing it here, but the costumes now they almost look like Shazam. Like they have the Shazam look, kind of, like literally superheroes. Like they actually all have capes, which is interesting.
Oh wow!
There's some kind of mixed feelings about it, but I'm actually interested to see what kind of elements they go into it.
To say how to backflip,
but there's a lot of different history. I mean, different Sentai's to explore of that I'm trying to catch up to, and I don't know. Who knows, man? It might even be a day that maybe one of the next series it might feature me or something, because I've been noticing that a lot of the series are starting to go away from just making it the same teenage formula for 30 years. Sure. So there's a high possibility that maybe they may pick some, Rangers that are a little bit older or experienced or something like that. So, I mean, that's why I got my heart on. So I'm just gonna keep moving and, and hope for the best.
I think I see a lot with my Transformers, but like you see, if you go to the toy aisle these days, they're remaking like He-Man action figures, and obviously Ninja Turtles has always had a pretty big, and Star Wars. I think they understand that people our age are the ones that are primarily buying the toys.
Yeah, we're the ones with the money. They know that for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So they're definitely going like, okay, well, yeah, we want the kid demographic, but also we know that our established fan base is already of a older generation now, so we have to make sure we continue to cater to them too. Mark, before we go, tell people where can they find your stuff online? Maybe where can they find you as a Power Ranger?
Oh, easy. So the best way to find me is you can follow it. It's Mark Cooper. That's ITSMARKCOOPER, and you will go far, superstars.
Beautiful.
All right, Mark, thank you for coming on the Really Big Fan podcast. We will have you back for sure.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Because I know you are a really big fan. As a nerdcore rapper, I know you are a really big fan of multiple franchises.
Oh, yeah.
So we did, our first episode was about Transformers, and I just talked about Transformers. I know you're a Transformers fan as well. I'm trying to space the Transformers conversations out.
Yes, you need to. Yeah.
At least maybe like, a month between them.
Well, it's like I'll have Tony on eventually, but we just had Mark Pandoff on talking about Star Wars.
Star Wars,
so we
right, exactly. So we got to kind of space it out. We don't want to just become a niche show where we just talk about the one thing.
Hey, if you talk about Beast Wars, let me know.
All right.
There you go.
You got it, Mark. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. All right.
And we're back with the Really Big Fan podcast. Thank you once again to Mark Cooper for in giving us the information on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Are you ready to find out what we've learned?
No.
I've got a 3-question quiz for you on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We'll see how much you retained from both talking to Mark and from watching Power Rangers when you were a kid. First of all, true or false? The Zords, the big mechas that they ride in, that turn into the one big robot. Originally, the Zords were dinosaurs that turned into a big robot. Is that true or is that false?
True.
That is correct. They were dinosaurs.
I
thought of trying to trick you and figuring out what like the second form of them was. And I'm like, no.
I thought they were panthers the second time, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think they ended up being like cats or something. But maybe
Yeah,
like Voltron was cats.
Well, maybe that's what
Voltron was
thinking,
cats,
too.
so that's what I
Well,
always
I thought
remember.
I thought they had like these panther things at one point,
Yeah.
but I'm not entirely sure.
Second question: what were the names of the bullies in the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
If I give you one, do you think you could get the other one?
No.
Well, it was Bulk and Skull.
Okay.
were the bullies in every
Do
episode.
not remember. I only remember the lady with the thing on her head
Yeah.
that was screaming all the time.
Right,
And I don't
the
even
main
remember
villain.
her name.
It was Rita Repulsa.
There you go.
All right, and secondly, this is a multiple choice question. Which color was not a Power Ranger color? Yellow, red, purple, and green.
Purple.
That's true. There was not a purple Power Ranger.
Yep.
And
I
that's
remembered all the rest. I visually remember what the Power Rangers look like, and that is about it.
yeah.
Like, I don't remember their names. I don't remember, like, anything.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't have even known one of them were Jason if Mark wasn't obsessed with Jason.
Sure.
So, like, I was very small when the Power Rangers were on, like, very, very small. I dressed as the Pink Power Ranger when I was probably like 5, so I don't remember much.
You said you were very small when the Power Ranger. Now all I could picture is you in Grogu's little little cape, toddling around the house.
Can I be that for a con? I'm
And
just
then-
gonna get like a
and then-
brown jacket
And then jumping just like Grogu after watching Power Rangers, doing flips and stuff. Your mom being like, "Will you stop it?" All right, thanks again to Mark Cooper, and we already recorded next week's interview.
Yes. So
And,
next week we will have Miss Erica Banis on.
Yes.
She is a rock reporter and
Previously did the One Fall Show with me.
Yep. Very good radio voice. And I feel like sometimes you can't tell us apart when we talk, so that's
Yeah, the
fun.
audio podcast part of it might be a little strange.
Yeah, so mentally prepare, but we're also going to be talking about Gilmore Girls. So I
Yeah.
don't know, like Gilmore Girls and Amy Sherman Palladino as a whole. So
I will be lost next week.
yes,
I will
and
have
I
no
am
friend.
going to grill you.
Ooh. I'm gonna get
kidding.
hosed on
I'm
our-
kidding. There's so much that we didn't even bring up about Gilmore Girls, to be honest with you, that like there's not a ton of things I can even quiz you on. So we're good. Like, because we talked about so many different properties from Amy Sherman Palladino.
Right,
So.
right, for sure. Well, with that being said, let's get into our final segment this week, and that is the serotonin boost. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
You can start.
Okay. This week, my serotonin boost is a comic book that was supposed to be released a few weeks ago, but had to go back to the printer for a printing error. It is from Image Comics. It's called World Tree, and for people watching the video at home, I've actually got the first issue right here for you so you can see it. It's written by James Tynion IV, who's done a lot of Batman work and a lot of other stuff. It is drawn by Fernando Blanco, and it is kind of a cyberpunky horror comic wherein a bunch of people that used to work on tech stuff back before the internet was really a thing discovered this internet underneath the internet that is essentially like run by Satan. And then it's called the Undernet, and locked it away because it was too dangerous for it. Like anyone who looked at it would go insane and start trying to kill people. So they locked it away back in the 90s, and now it is returned. The comic is called World Tree, but it's spelled out like W0RLDTR33. And like I said, the first issue is on stands today as we record this episode. So I think it might be the next big thing for Image, who's got, The Walking Dead and Saga and all that stuff. So it's definitely something to look forward to. And I got a chance to read it, and it reminded me of Black Mirror. And I was like, ooh, I like this. This is interesting. I want to see where this is headed. So that's my serotonin boost for this week.
Mine's a little weird this week. I apologize once again. But I did a Batman cosplay shoot this week with my friend Dark Detective. You can follow him at dark_detective_. Does a lot of different Batman stuff, but he does the most intricate cosplays. Like he buys these pieces, and like the suit that he built for the Dark Knight was the suit that we were shooting, and it looks amazing. It's like very well put together. And so we went out and we shot in Detroit because of the series that I do, Detroit Gotham, which funny enough was like the first time I ever talked to you on a podcast.
Yep.
Was we were talking about me doing shoots like this, because
Right.
I started this series in like 2016, and it's just kind of keeps popping up every so often. But this person found me because of the fact that I do those shoots, and had me saved for almost 2 years until they started shooting. So it was kind of cool. Like they saw my work,
Yeah.
and then held on to it until they were ready. But the reason that I bring all this up was that when you shoot at night, if you don't have a lot of lighting, you're going to have some issues with grain. Well, Lightroom, which is part of the Adobe suite, just came out with a denoise effect with their new update. So like if you do anything with Lightroom at all, re-up your Lightroom Classic, because it's a little button. You hit it, it goes through the process, and it clears out the noise grain, but it doesn't overdo it. It makes it really smooth, but also it still sharpens the image when you put it through. So the pictures that I had, I was actually sending them to some of my other photographer friends, sending it, going like, you need to download the new version of Lightroom, because these pictures I didn't even do any editing to yet, and they already look amazing.
Right.
So, and I mean, like, that's not just because I shot them. Like, I feel like, I need to say that just in case. But that is my serotonin boost this week, because I've literally been telling everybody about it. So if you are into any photography and you're doing Lightroom stuff, please, please, please do yourself a favor and download that, because it is going to save you a mental breakdown, I swear. You've seen it. I've had mental breakdowns about not lighting something correctly. Like, This is a game changer, and there's so many photographers that do concert photography on Twitter that are all going, these are saving my images right now.
I bet. Yeah, for sure.
Because that's one thing that people don't realize about the concert photography stuff, is that as you're taking pictures, you don't have any control over your lighting beyond like changing your settings.
Right.
So if you are in really bad lighting, you're probably going to end up with a lot of grain, because you're cranking your light up to be able to even see the person in the photo. So definitely a game changer.
Nice. And where can people see some of your photos with or without this new filter on it?
It's going to be at Acronymiz on everything. So acronymiz.com, Acronymiz on all socials. I should probably have those up sometime. I want to say in 2 weeks, just because I usually give people time to post them on their socials first before I start posting them. But I did a BTS thing showing like how I shot the stuff, and then I'm gonna go over kind of the color correction for the Dark Knight, because with Malik, he's very interested in the color composition of the movies that we're doing the suit for.
Right.
So this was the Dark Knight suit, so everything's going to be kind of blue toned. It's going to have that kind of dark, eerie blue, and I'm really excited for everybody to see what we put together. If you want to see the Rob Pattinson version that we did already, that is in my socials. You may have to scroll a little bit, but we did that in Detroit about 6 months ago. So this is, I think we knocked it out of the park with this one.
Awesome.
And we were like, I think these are better than the Rob Pattinson Batman.
I'm always much happier when you come back from a photo shoot happy with like the results before you've even edited it. Because there's two phases living with you of like when you come back and like the shoot was a disaster, you're usually pretty upset.
Yes.
And then it's worse if during the editing process you can't fix it. But when you can fix it, or when you find something like this, then it's like, awesome.
Yeah, no, I think this is going to alleviate some of the stress with that.
That's good.
And it's, I will say this, it's unfortunately the way that the world is working, there's a lot of hate with like tons of AI.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, with great reason and everything else, but I think that this plugin is part AI. So it's like it's trying to look at the image and figure out, what it is, but it's part of the Lightroom thing.
There was a story I saw on Kotaku last week that I didn't bring up during the headlines, but like somebody found a whole bunch of songs that have been uploaded to Spotify that are all essentially the same song, just like with one or two changes. All different artists, all with AI covers on them, and made a playlist of 49 songs saying this is all the same song. I listened to like 5 of them. They're the exact, like it's, if you, to try and put it in layman's terms, to dumb it down for non-musicians, it's like if you took the guitar, the bass, the keyboards, the drums, there's no vocals in any of these things, and then you just like took one part out and called it a new song.
That's wild.
And then took one more part out and called it a new song. Or like, let's start with the chorus instead of the verse. Let's start with the bridge instead of the chorus. Yeah. And after like 5 of them, I'm like, the hell?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I know that there's going to be a lot of that, especially there was a news thing that popped up about Grimes saying that she was okay with people doing AI of her as long as she gets 50% of the royalties in terms of like her music output or whatever.
Right.
And that's going to be definitely a weird shift in the industry, because there's been a lot of like The Weeknd has been replicated with AI. The first one I ever saw was David Guetta did Eminem at one of his sets.
Interesting.
So he pulled up, he got him to say like future rave sound or whatever, and he put it through a system, and it sounded exactly like Eminem.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you from the bottom of my heart how much I was enraged.
Yeah.
So I know that like AI is a real thing that like people are worried about, but it's like this at least is part of a application in Adobe, so I don't think that there's any danger of it being processed through it and like getting stolen.
Right.
But you never know with things. So,
well, you can't get the Really Big Fan podcast courtesy of an AI yet. We're not big enough.
We're not. Yeah, we're not enough famous for people to make AI of our
to
voices.
replicate us. But we'd love to get famous enough to be replicated by AI, and you can help us out by heading on over to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/reallyBigFanPod. Make sure you subscribe and follow the channel so you can know when I'm playing video games, when we're playing video games, and when we're recording the podcast, as well as we've got a donation button up there if you want to donate to help us, make sure that we've got the equipment we need to bring you the content you love. And we also have a Patreon, which we're still in the process of figuring out what to do with, but you can always donate $1 to $3, $5 or whatever like that, and help us afford to do this.
Yeah, we do also have a Ko-fi button on acronymiz.com/reallyBigFanPod.
There you go.
So you can either click on that Patreon, or you can do the Ko-fi button, or just go to the Twitch page and hit the donate button. Either way. But we definitely want to keep doing this, and we want to keep doing this for the foreseeable future if we can. So as many people as we can get involved in helping us out with that, we we want to keep going.
If you enjoy the content, we hope that you would throw us a couple bones so that we can afford to feed ourselves and continue to bring you the content that you enjoy. You can, of course, find us doing the show Wednesday mornings around 11:30. We rerun the show, at least for the last couple of weeks. We have around 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. Then it hits YouTube on Thursday night.
8 p.m.
And then at 3 a.m. on Friday is when you can find the audio version of the podcast. We are on all platforms now: Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, TuneIn app, whichever app you grab your podcast on, we should be there. So make sure you leave us a review and give us all the stars and let people know that the Really Big Fan Podcast is your favorite podcast. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you all. Hall Gaming, Catastrophe Black. Who's in here? That's it's new.
Up to the top.
New Dawn.
New Dawn.
Thank you, New Dawn, for hanging out. ChZuck 77. He's a big fan. Acronym is. Always good to see her in the chat.
Oh, goodness.
You guys have a fantastic day. Like I said, the rerun will be up later on tonight around 7 o'clock, and we'll be back either tomorrow or Friday night playing something. I know we just finished Donkey Kong Country, and we played a little bit of Donkey Kong Country 2. Maybe we'll continue playing that. Maybe we'll play something else. You never know. Have a good one, guys.